How's it, everybody? Welcome to the Charlotte Online. Always happy to be here with you, and I do hope that you're well. I'm going to look today at Surya Namaskar A with you. Or we're going to look at Surya Namaskar A together, Sun Salutation A. It maybe builds on from my previous two classes, which the themes were breath and the idea of starting curricular again. So it's quite a sort of early aspect of physical movement practice potentially. So if you want to relook at those classes beforehand, please do. But at the same time, it's also a standalone class, and Surya Namaskar is a standalone practice. And so a little bit of just a point on that. Surya Namaskar, Sun Salutations, come from many of the lineages of yoga. I personally was introduced to them through Ashtanga Primary Series, where you would do a few rounds, I believe 5 rounds of Surya Namaskar A, followed by 5 rounds of Surya Namaskar B before you moved into your standing practice. And so they work almost like a connection and a warm-up. They're found, though, in many lineages of yoga. And they also stand alone in their own rights. And that's what's really quite unique, amazing about them, really, is that, especially if you weren't quite sure what to do sequencing-wise, a few rounds of Surya Namaskar are practice in their own right. And the reason being, as I understand it, is because the breath leads, the body follows. There's an aspect of controlled physical movement as we go through the shapes. And there's an aspect of stillness, stability, and concentration within each shape that we touch on as we join these shapes together in a flow. So if you were to do this and it was the only thing you ever did, I would say it's not a bad thing to be doing on the daily. And if you do it and add it to other parts of your practice, it's almost infinitely adaptable, infinitely sequenceable. There's so many points where you could pause and add another shape or two and then go back through the Surya. And that's where people start to build up to what you might know as vinyasa style practice. But we'll save some of the deets about that for another day. Today we're going to focus on Surya Namaskar A, Sun Salutation A on its own, right? At the risk, if I may, of taking a couple of liberties with the practice as I first learned it. When I first learned it, there was a bit of a sense of this is how it's done, so do it over and over and over and over again, and eventually you'll get better at doing it. And that is true, and it was helpful at the time. I have since found that adding a few little options, adding a few little variations here and there makes it more accessible to me in my own body depending on how I'm feeling each day. Sometimes a little tired, sometimes a little bit more awake, sometimes a little bit more energized, sometimes otherwise. And for other bodies as well and other people, when I've gone through the practice with them over the time that I've been instructing yoga classes, seeing that different people respond well to different sort of adaptations. And so I'm going to take a liberty and add a few there. And what we're going to do is start in a sort of generalized, quite sort of quote-unquote beginner space and build it up to a more sort of classic understanding of it without the variations. But please, the ultimate point is work within your own means. Challenge yourself when it feels appropriate. Allow yourself to back off if it feels more appropriate to do so. And don't strive for perfection, just strive for doing. We just do, and we just do, and we do again. And that's where sort of the theme of my current crop of classes has been and will go. It's just simple things done well, done consistently, done with awareness, long-term valuable results. So maybe. I'm also going to take a few liberties, and I'll tell you where those liberties are, including this one now. What I'm doing, you see, is I'm just flicking out my legs here and flicking out my ankles and my knees and my hips. And the reason being, I have found that sometimes the Sun Salutations can be quite linear, quite narrowing, and the joint complexes, as I understand it, are quite broad, quite spherical. From some of my earlier classes on the breath, you've seen that we were focusing on creating space with inhalation breath and potentially sort of moving into that space with exhalation breath. So I'm also just swinging out my shoulders and my wrists and my elbows here and even rolling my neck a bit. This is really freestyle. And what we're going to do together is work through the Surya Namaskars in pairs and give us opportunities to quickly shake it loose again as well, to make sure that we don't get too tight and rigid as we go through them, albeit we do want to be strong and engaged as we go through them. Thereafter, just bring yourself with an exhalation breath here into this moment, onto your mat and into your feet, and stand quite naturally. And the first thing I'm going to ask us to do is simply sweep the arms above the head, take a breath in. You haven't got to do anything else at all. You haven't got to overstretch, and then just exhale and bring it through the midline. Now again, that's not technically part of Surya Namaskar, but I'm going to take a liberty and do it. I'm also going to invite you to do that again with a bit more in the spine, i.e. follow your fingers with your gaze, so that you end up opening your throat and gesturing your first little back bend. Then exhale and come straight down the middle once more. Now that's important because you don't want to be dumping too much into the lower back. So little preliminary spaces like that give you a chance to just check in with your body before you move further. We'll go into the sides as well. Look, we're going to take a breath in, allow a generous bend in the knees, and lean over to the left so that you open up the right side body, the right side lungs. And I'm going to take a second breath here and be as loose and as floppy as you feel you need. Take a big breath and find space. And exhale, reach. Nice. Into the heels, spring yourself tall, take a breath. And over we go to the opposite side, a breath or two here. Look, we're opening up now. Well, we've gone to the right, but we're opening up left side lungs. There's a second opportunity to breathe. And maybe you want to reach a little bit further. And we spring ourselves up and we bring it back down. Now, another aspect of it is nice strong legs. So here's an option to sweep tall and spread the toes, raise the heels. Can you see I'm doing that, raising the heels? Now you might wobble around a little bit, but it certainly lets the legs know there's a bit of work coming. And then as you take the heels to the floor, sweep the arms back down. And this again isn't technically part of Surya, but you'll see it and possibly be grateful that we started with a ragdoll forward fold. So I'm going to allow myself and encourage you here to explore the ragdoll a little bit. You can do bendier knees, you can do straighter legs. I like to swing myself around a little bit and just look down at the toes and rock and roll on the feet and make sure that your toes aren't crunchy. Try and put the weight into the heel and into the pads at the base of the toes a bit more than the toes themselves. Now, one thing that we will see in Surya a lot is a forward fold and then this halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. So I'm going to take my hands to my thighs just above the knees. Can you see that? I've got my thumbs in, my fingers out. And then we try and straighten the legs, straighten the arms, and straighten the back. Can you see and feel that little back bend in the lower back again? And we did it when we opened our throat and raised our gaze, right? Now grip your thighs, broaden your chest, and lift your head. Take a full breath. This is quite important in the practice, and it does transfer a bit of weight into the lower back, so you don't want to hurt yourself. Then I'm going to walk the hands down to the calves, elbows in a little, and just hang. So we're resting the palms on the calves, fingerprints pointing down, but it's almost all ragdoll style. And again, you can explore whether to bend the legs or straighten them. But see how my neck is loose and rocking? That's a bit of a liberty I'm taking there, but there's pressure building in the head and the face as you put the heart above the head and send the blood down to the brain. All right, now we're going to go a little deeper. It's the same story, but it's hands to shins at the lower knees. Now, can you see again? Look, I've got my thumbs in, my fingers out, but rather than above the knees, we're below the knees, right? So get into your heels, fire up your arms and your legs, lift your chest and the back of your head. This is elongation in the spine and breadth in the chest. Take a breath, and then see about taking the hands down to the calves now, even the ankles. And this is where you might get a bit tricky. So definitely allow yourself a micro bend in the knees. Hopefully as we go through the shapes together and we warm the body up, your legs will naturally get a bit straighter without you forcing the issue. And we certainly don't please want to force the issue. A comfortable challenge is okay, but pressure and pain not necessarily the goal. All right, now then, how about longest fingers, longest edge to the floor? And a half lift. Can you see that we've incrementally gone down to the floor, and yet I'm still able to lift my chest, arch my back, and almost spread and lift the hips as well as the back of the head. Now, this is a bit tricky for people. Take a breath. Can you get all 10 fingerprints onto the floor? Maybe flat palms onto the floor. A lot of people are going to get stuck here, and I'm going to welcome and encourage you to bend your knees so that you can get those flat palms to the floor. And imagine that you were going to push yourself into a handstand whilst relaxing your neck. All right, take another breath cycle, straighten the legs if you can. And then at the end of your empty breath, just easy, roll yourself tall, sweep the arms above the head, follow your fingers with the gaze, and exhale back to the midline. This is what we might call Samastitihi. So that alone is a nice warm-up practice, right? And I would recommend doing that if you had no other time to do anything else. Otherwise, we'll take our first 2 rounds, and we're going to build up intensity as we go, get to the front edge of your mat. Toes are slightly closer together. Heels are slightly further apart. A micro tucking of the chin and a floating of the crown as you soften your face. It's a full breath in. And as you exhale, release the hands to the side body. Now, broad as well as tall, sweep the arms, take your breath, follow with gaze. And as you exhale, control the journey into the forward fold. We're just here. You want to take your hands to the front corners of the mat, just by the side of the feet. Now, we're going to pause. We'll speed up presently. This one's real steady, real slow. Take the weight into the left foot. Step the right foot back. The key is not to let the knee touch the floor. That would actually be classic Surya. We'll look at it another time. But can you feel that you're relatively low to the floor here now? So you can take the right hand flat and you can take the left hand flat. And you can slightly draw the elbows in and broaden your back and transfer the weight into the arms and hands as you take the left leg back to meet the right. Now, I like to rock and roll a little bit in my first round and just distribute my body weight and broaden my back and take a breath. But we're going to take our knees to the floor, come slightly forward of the wrists and bend at the elbows to lower all the way down to the earth. Now, this isn't classically Surya. I'm going to take my hands wide and take a shallow back bend and spend a little bit of time, because this is still a relatively deep back bend, right? You don't want to compress yourself. You don't want to lock your shoulders up and around your ears. You want to get the head free of the neck and the neck free of the shoulders, and the belly relatively soft, albeit the feet and the pelvis are pressing into the floor. Take a breath, keep a little bit of action in the lower back, and come back down about 3/4 of the way to the floor. And then bring the hands into the armpits, elbows in. Now as you come forwards and up, this is cobra pose, and this is quite a back bend, hey? But the feet and the pelvis are grounded. Breathe freely. Come through all fours. Curly toes. This first round especially, we're going to take a lot of time to walk into downwards facing dog. So you want to be lifting the hips a little. I like to just sway from side to side and pull my arms away from my wrists as I transfer the weight into the legs. And don't be in too much of a hurry to straighten the legs. Rather focus on distributing the body weight so that nothing's particularly overworking and nothing's particularly underworking. And especially on this first round, allow it to be a little bit fluid. There's an energetic quality of stillness to the shape, but you don't have to be rigid or locked. Now, finish your breath in and out. Micro bend the knees, look forward to see where you're going, and lead with the right foot. Baby steps, silent steps, no thumping around, to the top of your mat. This is your Ardha Uttanasana, half lift, full breath. Look up, 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 up. Then it's your standing forward fold with an exhalation. And you want to be nice and strong in those legs. And your in-breath is almost a release. You just sweep the arms above the head and bring yourself back down to Samastitihi, hands into the prayer position. All right, that's the half of the first pair. So let's go again. Full breath. Exhale, release the arms. Broad and tall sweep and follow. Exhale, journey down to the floor. Half lift and pause. We'll go quicker than this presently, but transfer the weight into the right foot and take the left foot back. Now don't thump the floor, land with control. Ready? Left arm, hand flat. Right arm, hand flat. Super broad back, big lift. And right meets left. This is our high plank. This is a breath. Now, come slightly forwards, knees to the floor, pelvis to the floor. I'm going to add a variation. Forward and upwards cobra pose. And I'm going to encourage you to take your exhalation and turn your gaze to the left and stretch the right side tummy. And remind your feet to be quite strong. Inhale through midline. Exhale to the right, and that will stretch your left tummy. I like to make the space before we put the pressure in the body and the intensity into the practice. Open your throat, take a breath, and then melt your belly back to the floor. All right, simple cobra, forward and up. All fours, bendy knees, curly toes, and I'll see you in downwards facing dog. If at any point in time you start to fatigue, if at any point in time you want to rest, bend the knees a lot, even to the point that you might take child's pose. Otherwise, join me, slight liberty here, bend the knees a lot, and then when you're ready, straighten only the right leg, heel to the floor. That'll help you get the right heel to the floor a little easier than when you're doing both feet at the same time. But it will increase the stretch into the Achilles and the calf. Don't overstretch, do breathe. Exhale, bend the knees. We're not particularly bouncing around, but we can reset with bendy knees and then move into the left leg straight and push the heel to the floor and just feel it. Now the point is to identify where you're feeling sticky. Can you take your breath and your softness there? Don't overexert, especially not early. Full breath in. Bendy knee release. Now I like to lift my bum, arch my back, open the side ribs, take another breath, and then it's 2 straight legs, 2 heels towards the floor. They might not get there, but there's more energy in the legs and a bit less energy in the hands. Empty breath. Bendy knees, look forwards. Left foot, gonna lead. Silent little baby steps. To the top of the mat. Ardha lift, breathe. Uttanasana, fold, exhale. 1 breath, sweep the hands, follow with gaze. And we find ourselves back in the starting position. So we did 2 halves there in a pair, and it was relatively beginner-esque, and I'm going to encourage you now to just loosen out. Again, this is informally in the practice, this isn't in the technical practice, but I like to do it anyway, and I would encourage you to do the same, not to tighten up. We're going to do another pair, and we'll add on. Sweep, tall, breathe. Exhale, fold. Possibly a little bit quicker here, half lift. Right foot, right hand, left foot, breathe. Knees to the floor, pelvis to the floor. Right, we did forward and up cobra pose. Here's where it's going to start to add on. Forward and up again, upward facing dog. Can you see now that the knees and the shins are off the floor? It asks more work of the legs and the glutes, especially to protect the lower back. I personally like that you can actually sort of swing around into it a bit and climb out of your wrists and transfer the weight into the feet. Engage the glutes a little bit. The difference when you're raised is that you move through the high plank without the bendy knees so much, and you find yourself in downward facing dog. Now again, you could take child's pose if you like. I like to do sort of soft, medium, strong. So take a moment to bend the knees and get the body weight right. Then take a moment to draw the muscles onto the bones. And then take a moment to go into a stretch and see what's available. Now, we did right foot baby steps, and you can certainly do that. Otherwise, look where you're going. How about right foot single step? It's a long way. Right, left. Half lift, breathe. Standing fold. Sweep it tall. To Samastitihi. Second half of this pair, full breath. Exhale, release the hands. Strong but floaty light, sweep the arms. Standing fold. Half lift. Left foot, left hand, right foot, breathe. Now, even though we're going to take the knees to the floor, elbows in a little as you lower down, forward and upwards cobra or upward facing dog. Here's a liberty that I'm adding on. We're in the upward dog, it's strong in the legs. We'll add the twist, breathe. Exhale, left. This is not formally in the practice. Through midline, breathe, push the floor, exhale, right. Now, here's the trick. Midline, open throat, look to eyebrow center, breathe, and then lift through the high plank into downwards facing dog. Now, we'll get more structured as we go. You could take child's pose. I'm going to invite you to kink the knees, get your right foot at 45 degrees and push the heel to the floor. Only the right leg straightens, but this time the foot's at 45. That's your launch pad for Surya B. Tamsin's going to walk you through that this week in the classes as well. I might relook at it again with you later. But push into the outside edge of the foot. You could even slightly turn your gaze to the right armpit and get a bit more space in the right rib. Full breath. Uncoil. Bendy, bendy, reset, check. Left foot 45 degrees, press to the heel, and very slightly turn open to the left. You almost want to be able to lift the toes off the floor. Don't fight it. Soften your breath, find your space, and exhale and coil. Bendy knees for the reset, and then downwards facing dog, both heels to the floor. If you're adding on, you try and lift your toes and bring your toenails back to meet your shins. All right, left foot. Could be baby steps or one big step with control. Ready? Left, right. Half lift, breathe. Standing fold. Sweep it out to Samastitihi. We've done 2 pairs. I don't know about you, I'm feeling a little bit warmer already. That's part of the point. It opens the body up, it oxygenates the body, and it asks your muscles to work. So do be engaged, but don't grip too hard. We're going to do another pair. Now, this might get tricky. Sweep tall, take breath. Exhale, standing forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Right, left. Now, here's the trick. You can take the knees to the floor, but formally, you can't. Chaturanga, elbows in, lower down, but hover roughly parallel. Then only flip the toes, breathe in, and exhale to enter the shape. Strong, eh? Now then, you could settle into stillness a bit quicker, or you could gently take a breath or 2 to settle in. Here's the trick, guys. Please don't hurt your back. You can do right foot baby steps. You can do right foot big steps. Or we're going to start the process of floating. Look what I'm doing. I'm rocking into high plank, transferring weight to hands, and then rocking back to down dog. We're trying to get a little bit springy. We're not going to go all the way. Look to your mat, split it in half, and just try and go into the front half with both feet. Ready? Look where you're going. Exhale. And a light sort of half mat hop. Then right, left. Half lift. Standing forward. Sweep it out. Samastitihi. Now that half hop and that lightness is going to show you if you're thumping around. And that's where in my early practice I wasn't given necessarily the option to do that. And I found I was thumping the spine. Not always the best thing in your lower back. Let's have a go. Try again. Full breath. Standing fold. Half lift. Left, right. Breathe. Elbows in for floating chaturanga unless you need to go to the floor. Flip the toes, open it up to Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now, here's your choice. Settle into your down dog. Settle into your bendy knees if you wish. Settle into your child's pose if you prefer. Otherwise, get ready for your little hop. Roughly halfway across your mat. Try and get into the front half. Look, we get a bit springy. We're trying to lift the hips above the shoulders and not jump so much as float. Ready? Double foot. Off we go. Left, right. Breathe. Look up. Standing forward. Sweep it tall. And Samastitihi. I'm sure you can feel that's a bit more challenging. And the good news is it's going to get a bit more challenging again. Shake loose. Take a resting breath. Off we go. Sweep tall. Take breath. Forward fold. Now here's a real trick. Half lift. Now we do not please want to thump the spine. We don't want to land with anything too audible. Last time we did a half hop forward. Now we're going to try and do a half hop back. Get into the hands, get springy, go to the second half of your mat only, both feet. Then right, left. Chaturanga. Urdhva Mukha. Adho Mukha Svanasana. All right, let's everyone take the knees to the floor. Hips to the heels, and just half lift for a moment. Half child's pose, half rest. We're now going to try and float all the way to the front of the mat with only one little hop and no thumping on the floor. More a floating and landing. Ready? Let's go. Down dog. Springy, springy. It's work, but you're in control. Look between your hands. Empty your breath. And go. Half lift, breathe. Standing fold. Sweep it out. Samastitihi. Second half, full breath. And release. Sweep it tall. Forward fold. Half lift, right, pause. Springy, springy. We're going to go halfway back with a double foot hop. Then left, right. Chaturanga. Urdhva Mukha. Downwards dog. And rest, rest. Active rest. But actually the idea is that it's a rest. You're starting to warm up. You're starting to press your muscles onto the bone. You're starting to stretch further into the shape. And you're definitely active, but you're not fighting. Can you see the front part of your mat? Can you visualize a light double foot hop. Exhale first and go. Breathe, look up. Exhale, fold. Sweep it out. Find some stitihi. Nice. All right. We're going to do one more pair with a full hop back and a full hop forward. Should I say a full float back and a full float forward. Rather do it little and often and incrementally build it up than heroes leaping, thumping your feet, thumping your spine. Breathe in. Breathe out. Half lift. Hop. Chaturanga. Urdhva Mukha. Adho Mukha. 3 breaths, soft, medium, strong. Settle your gaze. Slow it down. Ready for the journey forwards? Off we go. Half lift. Standing fold. Sweep it out. Samastitihi. Last half. Second half. Half lift. Float. Chaturanga. Urdhva Mukha. Adho Mukha. All right, now, not only stretching the mat long, hands from feet, feet from hands, also wide. Spread your fingers, spread your toes, push the hands away from each other towards the top corners of the mat, push the feet away from each other toward the bottom corners of the mat. Open up your side ribs, don't lock your neck. Full breath in and out. Look where you're going. Float. Urdhva, Uttanasana. Sweep it out, high mountain. And Samastitihi. Now, you can close the eyes, or at least look down to the fingertips. Float the crown. Feel your heart beating in your chest. Feeling a little warm, feeling a little engaged, hopefully feeling a little oxygenated. All right, flick your feet, ragdoll, drain, sweep, relatively loose. I love this feeling of all that freshly oxygenated blood going into the neurons of the brain. Stay if you want, or Padangusthasana. Index, middle and thumb, bind the big toes. See how bendy my knees are? Ready? Find the bind. Now, lengthen out, long arms, long legs, long back, broad chest, full breath. Ready? Bend the elbows, tuck chin forward. Slightly stronger than the ragdoll. Press the toes, pull the fingers. Encourage the crown of the head down to the floor. Take a breath or two. Settle into stillness. The next one is a lot. Please be mindful. But you are nice and warm now and very well aligned. Padahastasana. Bend the knees, look up, release the bind. We're standing on the palms, toes to the creases of the wrist. Bendy knees to start. One hand at a time is an option. Wiggle in, get to the heels, get to the pads, open up, take a breath. Now the challenge here is to forward fold. It's a lot. A lot in your back line, a lot in your hamstrings. Be broad as well as long. Be expansive. Stretching from your center, not to your feet. It's actually a massage for the wrists after all those chaturangas and down dogs. Soften into the final breath or two. And as you exhale, bend the knees a bit to release the hands. Right, half lift, but it's quite soft. Forward fold, but it's quite floppy. You can bend the knees, tuck the chin, roll yourself up carefully, and then sweep the arms. Take a breath. Exhaling to Samastitihi. Surya Namaskar. A. Some options, some variations. I recommend that you don't over-intellectualize it. You rather practice it a few times and feel it. Sometimes we go into fuller shapes. Sometimes we allow ourselves softer. We observe. We repeat. And you can seal your practice in your own way. We bow forward to acknowledge each other, acknowledge the practice, acknowledge the lineages. Thank you very much, and I do hope you're well. Questions, comments, feedback, always welcome. I look forward to seeing you again soon.